Hello, and welcome to That's Just Human. It's a podcast that explores all aspects of being human, living in a body, and dealing with life's obstacles. I bring on different people to discuss stories of their own life and things that they've been through, and hopefully help you to move through different things in your own life, step into your authentic self and your aliveness. I'm your host, Elisha LightAngel, and by day I'm a massage therapist. But like you, I also happen to live in a body and have a plethora of human experiences. Today, my good friend of a long, long time, we're not going to count how many years, Stephanie Sunflower Bell is joining us. And she is a badass. She's a licensed massage therapist, an end of life doula, a performer, and a clown mother. She believes deeply in the vulnerability and authenticity and champions the importance of play as a vital part of both daily life and meaningful work. So join me in welcoming Stephanie Sunflower Bell. Hello, welcome. Thank you for being on my podcast.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to be here and to just talk about clown and play because I feel like, especially as adults, we don't get to we don't have permission to play as much as we should.
I love that. It's so true. Somewhere along the lines of I maybe becoming youth or growing into adulthood, we get so consumed with what we think we're supposed to be doing as an adult, and we do forget to invite play into our lives. I know it's something I've had to do intentionally in my adult life, especially when I get too serious. And I am very curious to know about your journey into exploring more play and being a clown mother. I I'm like, I don't even know what that is, but I want to know way more about that.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, no, I like it's very similar to you. I feel like play is something I have to seek out. I work at a comedy theater and I'm very lucky to work there and I'm very lucky to teach there. But in my everyday life, that is something I really just try outside of the theater or really try to find moments of play and find moments where I can take the serious things less seriously.
I love that. Now, obviously, this is something you've had to integrate. So I'm thinking, let's go ahead and start with some of the experiences that you've had that have been well, let's say the stepping stones into being where you are today.
Oh gosh. I was always a playful child. But I remember my mom telling me and my twin one day, you two were so happy and then one day you weren't. And even though there was play in my life, there was a lot of grief and there was a lot of heartache and there was a lot of just really awful things. And I remember being about 13, 14, and deep in my depression, deep in a lot of terrible things happening to me, and realizing that I needed all of this to happen to me because one day I was going to be a light. One day I was going to get on the other side of it and I was going to be a light. And then as I got older, my mom passed away when I was 18. My older sister passed away when I was 24. My dad passed away when I was 30. And I recently lost a good friend of mine earlier this year around March 3rd. And so my life has just been consumed by grief. And every time I lose someone, and this could be like, a friendship or a lover or a family member, because my brother went no contact with me too over an objectively funny Facebook post. It's objectively funny. I've asked many people. I pulled it. No, losing so many people, I really kept a lot of people go to bitterness and a lot of people close their heart. And I had the objective of keeping my heart open. I was like, how can I love harder? How can I love more? And how can I be more true to myself? And that's where I found play. And that's how I discovered clown, actually, and then improv. And then I went back to clown immediately as soon as I could.
So how does one get into Clowning.
It's actually not. Okay, so clowning is having its resurgence, and I'm so freaking excited. But first, I should explain what clown is. Because I think a lot of people, when they obviously we think of it, we think of those 2016's horror clown. People love, love, love to hate on clowns. They think of party clowns, birthday party clowns. They think of those clown of people that wear clown makeup and clown clothes and go out and do inappropriate things in public. I've heard many, many stories about horror stories around clowns and people having inappropriate experiences. What I do and what there's a resurgence of is theater clown and elevated clown. And the objective of elevated clown is connection, authenticity, play, and also just bringing levity to these really serious moments in our life. So how do we get into clown? I was very lucky that I stumbled upon a free class that was happening twice a week in Dallas. The clown teacher was a hill most of the time, but he was also a great clown teacher. And I just really fell in love with the art form immediately. And when 2020 happened, everything changed and there was no more clown in Dallas. And that's when I decided that I want to help bring clown back to Dallas. And I am one of two people currently offering clown classes in Dallas. I offer my classes at Stomping on Comedy Theater.
That is so cool. I love that. So what do you teach or what do you learn in clown school, like specific, like what would be part of the curriculum?
I love this question so much because people don't expect it. Um, when I first taught this class, people had no idea what to expect, and no one had seen a clown show in the way that I wanted to teach clown. And so when I told them what was happening, they were very shocked and confused because I wanted them to, what I always tell people, when you put on that clown nose, you take off that human mask. Clowns are the most human. I want to teach you how to be human. I want to teach you how to be so vulnerable and authentic and in the moment and so driven by play and by this desire to hold a mirror to people and to society and kind of reflect what they need to see about themselves or whatever it is, the message that you want to say. That is what I teach. I teach an opportunity to connect with yourself. So that's why you connect with other people on a real level and not just a performer level.
That sounds very therapeutic.
Oh, I hear that all the time about my clown classes. They something that my people tell me is that it's a very spiritual class because you're connecting with your inner child in a lot of ways, or these aspects of yourself. Your clown is the way that I teach it. The clown is these exaggerated parts of yourself, and so it's a very therapeutic way in that sense that not only are you bringing your grief and your hurt to the stage, but you're also bringing your joy and your comfort and your laughter, and you're connecting with other people. And one thing that I've noticed is when I perform as a clown or when I teach my clown class, the first thing I do is I go into the audience and I give someone a hug and I give them a really deep, hard, heavy hug, and they always say thank you. I've never had anyone not say thank you. And we are so desperate for connection in our society and to be vulnerable and to be seen that it is therapeutic just to go on stage and be present and be real. The first thing I make my students do is stand in front of everyone, completely neutral, just completely themselves. If I don't feel like they're being themselves enough, I'm going to make them and do it again. And then I'd have every person in the audience tell them what they saw and tell them what they felt and tell them what they projected onto that person. And it's intense. It's like, a lot of people will not even we'll see a person be completely authentic and completely vulnerable and they'll start crying. Not because that person did anything wrong, not because that person said anything, not even because they're giving back feedback they don't like. They're starting to cry because they're seeing that person for the first time, and it's beautiful and it's wonderful and it's soft.
Oh, That sounds amazing. When I think they're also trying to see and feel the authenticity, which we're not used to because so many people walk around in our society masked, doing what they should be doing and what they've been programmed or told that they need to be doing. And so the aspects, like they don't even know those aspects of themselves because they're so conditioned to think that that shouldn't be there. So conditioned to think that that shouldn't be there. And them finding different layers of guilt and shame and other emotions that we pile on top of the real authentic parts of ourselves. So we don't allow that to shine out. So I think that is a point of why people are crying just looking at somebody.
Ah, I love that perspective. I love that reflection back. Absolutely. That is something I really encourage my clowns. One of the things that makes clown different from other performances is that you're always looking at the audience. When you have a big reaction, you are showing the audience that reaction and not showing a scene partner, not showing, the other person. You are very connected with the audience. And I tell them, what does it look like to be depressed as a clown? What does it look like to be sad? What does it look like to be humiliated? What does it look like to be embarrassed or to be these emotions that we label as bad, but not because they're inherently bad, but they're just uncomfortable. They're uncomfortable to witness and they're uncomfortable to feel. I recently had a really bad friend breakup. And I went to my friend's clown showcase, and it's one of my favorite moments ever because I'm always telling people, especially my clowns, be authentic, be real, don't be afraid to make the audience uncomfortable, make an audience member cry. That's like the way that you succeed. And this beautiful clown walks out, and she's just dressed in pastel, and she's so cute. She's cute as a button, and she's doing the silent performance where she falls in love with an audience member. And then halfway through that performance, she decides that she wants to do a monologue. Well, she doesn't decide, it was part of it, but she starts to do a monologue, and she does a monologue about heartbreak, about loneliness, about losing connection. And she specifically talks about friend heartbreak and friend betrayal, which was something that I was experiencing. And I literally went to that clown showcase to not think about it. And I'm seeing this show, this act reflected back to me, and I'm hearing everything I've experienced shared back to me on stage in this very profound but meaningless way, because there's no hope in the words that she's saying. She's just calling attention to the reality of the heart, like of losing a connection and still of losing someone you love, that connection still being there. And she has this beautiful moment where she talks about, like, you have dreams, and that you dream and that person's in that dream and you're so happy to see them and everything is going great and everything's so wonderful, and then you wake up. And that's when she pulls out this party horn and just blew in it and walked off stage. And I gave her a standing ovation because that's fucking clown. That's beautiful. Like, what the absurdity of life. Like, heartbreak happens. There is nothing you can do about it. Might as well blow a party horn.
That's something. So
Yeah. That's something that I love about clown is, like, you're able to, I always call it that container. You create a container for the audience where they feel safe going in on this journey with you, and you can take them wherever you want to go with them. And then when you decide to leave that and just do something else, it's so absurd and it's so funny, but it's real. It's like Zen Buddhism. I'm always comparing clowns to Zen Buddhism because Zen Buddhist masters are the true clowns of society. But, like, you hear a Zen Buddhist parable, it makes your nose go like this, and you're kind of just like, well, that's absurd. And that's what clown is. Because that's what your goal is just point out the absurdity of humanity and the absurdity of the things that we're holding on to.
hmm. So earlier when you said it's an exaggerated part of self, is it when you said that, are you meaning it's an exaggerated part of these different emotions that we go through? Or
Yes.
because I'm
No.
trying to decipher, because I have a performance background, so I have training in acting, and of course there's all sorts of different trainings, but you're working at getting into a character, displaying these emotions, and the more authentic you can come to this character, it's like you being the most authentic you as this character that's not you. Um, and so I'm trying to see the difference even here between being acting, performing on stage, and then like clowning. Because it sounds like there's some similarities in there, and obviously they're both performing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Clown and acting are like, married. A lot of the best performers. I love watching touring Broadway shows. I love watching any kind of live performance. And I can always tell when someone has a clown background. And I've even had people tell that to me before in my live performances. They're like, I knew immediately you had a clown background. And it's because of that commitment to that emotion. It's how easily you're able to access it. And clown, the way, like, with when you're an actor and you have a script and you have a costume, you become that person. And it's very similar with clown. Clown is mask work. It's the smallest mask, it's a partial mask. And when you put on that clown nose, you see through that clown eyes. The red nose kind of like, guides that vision. And the idea is with that mask, you bring out that childlike state. Or and some people are dicks, you bring out that clown, you bring out whatever that clown looks like to you. And like, there's different clowns, there's with different noses and different costumes. But it's really like, it is a character, but it's also a more personal character than, someone else's character. You're not taking a play written by someone else and creating that character. You are taking a play created by yourself, but created with the audience, and you're bringing that to life.
Okay. So you do clowning in the form of improv. Is that correct?
Yes and no. I my biggest joke around the theater is that clown and improv aren't the same, but they are. Like, improv, like, clowns can do improv, but improvisers can't do clown. I think the difference is that it is improvised, but there's also you can do scripts. There's different types of clown. I think that any kind of theater clown can also be incorporated too into.
Interesting. I'm so fascinated by this because I'm not even sure I fully understand the concept of clown. Because as you mentioned in the beginning, clown to me, I think Barnum and Bailey. That would be my
Yeah.
first conjuration. And when I was a child, I liked clowns. I actually thought of possibly growing up to become a clown because it would be really cool. I get to perform at the circus. And I mean, what kid doesn't want to be at the circus 24/7? And
Yeah.
of course, I didn't know, work aspects that would go into just this imaginary aspect. And then I have seen, I have performer friends, people that do juggling, tightrope walking, acquire some of these more difficult skills that do take time to perfect and then be able to use that as a performance. So that's kind of what my mind conjures, and not is either you have that mask like the white painted face with the exaggerated features as far as the face goes, doing something to make people usually smile, or if they don't have that exaggeratedness, then it's more of a real person that has the ability to do a skill that also makes people smile.
And that is an aspect of clown. There's definitely a lot of circus clowns and even if you are performing on the streets, that is an aspect of circus clown. I really try to focus on theater clown, which is where, that acting aspect comes out, but also elevated clown. My clowns can go to hospices and hospitals or nursing homes, really anywhere, and be able to interact with the people around them and be like, create a space and create a show. I think, and that is something that is really important for me. It's not really about like, oh, look at all these cool tricks and skills I acquired. It's, hey, like, how can I meet you on your level, meet you where you're at so you can play with me?
That's so beautiful. So do you go and I know you said you're an end of life doula. Do you go to hospices and help people with clowning skills?
Oh gosh, that is something I am working towards. I'm hoping that by the time this podcast comes out, I will be in the mentorship. But I am waiting to hear back if I was shortlisted for a clown leadership fellowship mentorship program where these big names in clown will help me kind of get the connections and the networking and the skills I need to start doing that more. I am also building a clown program at Stomping Ground where, I'm teaching people how to be clowns. We're really, Stomping Ground is a 501c3 nonprofit. We use improv naturally, like the whole theater was created with improv in mind to help caregivers, people with anxiety, and just a community to connect because it helps improv so good with communication as well as all these other social skills. And now that, clown is starting to catch fire in our theater, we're trying to incorporate more clown into our mission. And that is kind of my goal is to like eventually be able to use our nonprofit and our clowning from our nonprofit to go visit nursing homes and specifically hospices. Talking about being an end of life doula, one of the miracles of being there for my good friend Chelsea earlier this year was how much my clown came out. I remember, um, oh, I'll never forget this moment. My good friend Sarah was driving me to go see Chelsea, and I kind of just quietly said, I feel like the reason that we're going to see Chelsea is because she's about to die. And Sarah took a deep breath and she goes, she's in hospice care. I already knew she was in palliative care. She wanted to tell you in person. And so I remember taking a deep breath and being like, what would my clown do? How can I focus on play and joy and make every second with her matter and count? And that is something that I was able to cultivate. And it was something that I was able to keep that space, even if, like, my whole life was falling apart outside of that container and me being with Chelsea when I was with Chelsea. And I was miserable and I was overwhelmed. But anytime I was with her, that clown came out. And I remember being at the hospice facility a week before she passed away. And it was still my favorite moment. I had so much fun. And that's crazy to say, right? I had so much fun at a hospice. And the nurses would come in and they would each of them be like, where's the party at? You guys are just so laughing and giggling so much. And you don't hear laughter in a hospice. And that's something I kept thinking about that whole week was you don't hear laughter in a hospice. And I wanted to I want to be that person that's able to go to someone that's on their deathbed and be able to meet them where they're at because not a lot of people can. People are so scared of people's vulnerability and truth and honesty like that. They don't know how to handle it because they don't know how to connect with it within themselves.
Mm. Wow, that's really beautiful. I hope that you get to do that. I am holding the vision for you that it will happen as you step into this being one of the purposes in your life. I totally see that.
Oh, my fingers are crossed.
What a beautiful gift to bring to whoever you have the ability to sit with before they leave this world. Uh, I just really think that's beautiful. And you have the experience of moving through so many different types of grief with different people and seeing the tragedy of it's tragic for those of us who remain anyway, because we're dealing with so many different emotions, especially depending on the relationship that you had with the person that's leaving.
Absolutely. Any type of loss, whether it's, through death or a breakup or, just someone moving, it's emotionally consuming because, you lose not only that person, but also those memories and all these expectations around that person. And I've been really, I talked earlier about Zen Buddhism, and I've been really, and that's something a clown kind of like we teach in clown a lot is how to be so present in the moment that you don't miss the opportunities of play.
Mm.
And because when you are so caught with your feelings of hurt and shame and embarrassment. That's anytime I have any kind of loss, I always experience shame and guilt and embarrassment because there's just like, you want to fix it. You want that control of like, what could I have done to make this thing better, to have prevented this from happening. And instead of living in that mindset, I've been trying to turn on that clown brain and, what instead of just thinking, how can I live? How can I just experience? How can I be? How can I be so present that when a butterfly lands next to me, I can witness it and not like, miss it? Because I'm so busy thinking about my thoughts.
I really love that. Presence is missing for a lot of us. They say that if you're depressed, that you're dwelling on the past, and that if you're anxious, you're dwelling on the future, both of which don't leave you in the present, which is the only thing that exists because you only have memories of the past and ideas of the future, and whatever you're thinking probably isn't even going to be anyway. And whatever you're remembering may not even be accurate either, which means that it's really just the whole fantasy that we've created in our minds, and then we're missing whatever's happening right in front of us.
Absolutely. One of my favorite parables I've been talking about for freaking 2 months now, just because it really is where I'm at in this moment, and just is something I've been really holding on to. Is this scholar goes up to this Buddhist monk and he's like, "Oh my gosh, like I'm so excited to talk to you. I have all these ideas, all these philosophies, all these, you know, like." All these thoughts in my head, and I want to hear your thoughts too. And so he would ask the Buddhist monk a question, and before the monk was able to complete a sentence, he would chime in with all of his thoughts and his theories and his philosophy. And so finally, the monk invited him to tea. And so they go to a tea house, and the monk is pouring him a cup of tea, and the tea fills to the top of the cup, over the cup, onto the table, onto the floor, and the scholar is getting upset and he goes, "Stop pouring the tea, stop pouring the tea, you're getting it everywhere." And the Buddhist monk sets the tea kettle down. He looks at the scholar and he goes, "Your brain is much like this cup of tea. When it's over full, there's no more room for things to come in." And that is something I have been embracing of don't get so emotionally attached to your thoughts, to the outcome of things, to the outcomes of past or the future. Just be open to what can happen.
Or that's hard to do.
It's so fucking hard.
Yes. I mean, what I'm so happy that you have found something that is giving you the tools to put this into practice so you can get better at doing it. But I know it's hard for me. I don't know anyone that's going to say that that's an easy thing to do.
Um, yeah, I have OCD too. I love ruminating and obsessing over things.
You're not the only one in existence. I'm a chronic overthinker here.
Yeah. And I think that's like, what a beautiful power to give yourself, right? Of that permission to, say like, what can I discover versus like, outside of me. That's something I always try to frame it as is what can I discover outside of me? I already know everything that exists within me. What is there to see that's not within me?
Hmm. Are you sure you're still not discovering things inside of yourself? Because I think we keep doing that as long as we live.
Oh, forever, forever. There is, that is an endless spiral, right? Of just like, finding new things to discover about yourself. But I also think like, you can't discover in yourself in a container, right? You have to go out and you have to live your life. And you have to find out how you interact with other people and interact with your environment to truly see how you are.
That's so true. Yeah. And all of this, like clowning, has given you all these skills. I want to now take clowning classes. Yeah,
Oh, please. Yeah.
you're making me want to take clowning classes. Not that they exist where I live, but um, it just sounds like something to really explore the depths of one's self. And then, as you've been doing it years, so now you have tools that you've learned from this to help you get through your everyday life shit.
Yeah. And like I've also I've always been a weird person that's been trying to find vulnerability and authenticity throughout my entire life. And I think, it's so funny, I facilitated ayahuasca ceremonies in my 20s. And I feel like that really helped me create my clown because it taught me how to meet people where they're at in their most vulnerable state. And that to me is what clown is, is meeting people where they're at in their most vulnerable state. So that's why you can share a message, whatever that message is. I think, we think about clowns have a long history throughout society, like thousands of years. Clowns is not just a couple of years, 100 years old. It's been in many cultures throughout society. It's in Native American culture, they call it the Heyoka spirit, the trickster spirit. There's always that person in society and cultures that's kind of turns everything on their head and points out the absurdity. Kings would keep their jesters to keep their egos in check. And if you're not the type of person that understands how to meet someone where they're at so you can say something that will get most people's heads chopped off, then you couldn't be a good jester.
Mm, that is true. Yeah, I guess we have had a style of clown going back for hundreds and thousands of years. I had never thought of that.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
What a difference between taking clown classes and then now moving into a space where you're teaching clown classes.
Yes. The exercises I hated when I was a clown student are now the exercises I love, and the exercises I make all of my clowns do repeatedly. I also think it's really funny because I remember coming into clown and I just had this idea of who my clown was. And I was like, she's going to smile all the time. She's just going to be expressive and all these things, and just joyful and only joyful. And my clown teacher comes up to me one day and he goes, Stephanie, why are you always smiling? I was like, oh, it's because my clown loves to smile. Just life is so beautiful. And he goes, stop that. You look like an asshole. And and it's it sounds mean, and he was mean, but also it's so important as a clown to be able to express yourself and to have a wide range of emotion. And a lot of times he would come up to me and he would say something that felt so personal and so mean because again it was mean and it was personal, but that's also a truth about clown, that we have to be a little bit more blunt and honest about people, what they're bringing to the table and where their strengths are at, because someone will try to, because you can hurt someone if you're not playing to your strengths. The second, you're not going to get the reactions that you're looking for if you're not being authentic to who you are and to the reality of how you are being perceived.
Mm. So do you think he said that to point out to you maybe as a mask that you might possibly be wearing with the smile?
Absolutely. It's such a good, I think about that all the time because it was a mask, right? There is no authentic, one of my teachers once said, acting teacher set once said, if you walk onto the stage and you're already smiling at the audience, people think that you look like an asshole. They don't trust you. You really have to, there's small psychological things that you have to consider when you are approaching someone in such an intimate moment, an intimate setting, especially when you have such a high status as a performer. Even if you're playing a clown that's super low status, you have more status. You are in control of that situation in more ways than you realize. And oh gosh, I know that I had a thought. But yeah, just you have to like, be in control of that. And you have to be able to explore those, you have to, yeah, yeah.
Wow. That that's really neat. What's a high status and a low status clown?
So hi is I love Keith Johnstone. He is and a famous writer who has written about the art of mask work and different kinds of theater work. He talks to has in his book Impro, he talks about status, and status is in use in theater, but also status exists throughout society. At like, status is the the power difference between two people. So you and I are on the same status. I would say in this moment you have a little bit of a higher status than I do because I'm an interviewee, you're the interviewer. This is your podcast. This is you are dictating where this conversation is going. So you have a little bit of higher status. If you're a patient at a doctor's office, you have a lower status being a patient, and the doctor has a higher status being a doctor. Keith Johnstone once said that it's like BDSM, but without the leather.
Okay, so it's about the power dynamics that create the status. So therefore, one status can change,
Oh yeah.
even change from moment to moment, like as you go from one room to another, depending on what the dynamic is in there. So that's neat.
Yeah, and you can also take like, a low status person can take can be higher status than someone that's normally higher status. Mr. Bean is one of my favorite clowns to ever exist because Mr. Bean will start his morning by making eggs, and next thing you know, he's CEO of a company. Like, there's no reason that there, like, he got from A to Z in all these absurd ways, but he's a very low status character who's kind of a bumbling fool, but through his bumblingness and through his just idiocracy and stupidity, he's able to create a high status for himself. And that's why we talk about status so much in clown.
Neat. So would you also consider, I'm just thinking because I really liked him, is Charlie Chaplin. Would you consider him a clown as far as kind of work?
Oh yeah. Charlie Chaplin, Lucille Ball, Shirley Temple. I also think drag queens are clowns. Katya and Trixie Mattel, 100% clowns. Chappell Roan is a clown. I think that, any kind of performance where you're exaggerating aspects of humanity, of yourself or humanity, is clown work.
Okay, I get that. See, Charlie Chaplin and Lucille Ball. Lucille Ball was like my all-time idol. That I always looked up to. And so I have enjoyed slapstick comedy or anything really the physical comedy or bringing aspects of character to create something that becomes funny. And I've also found when I'm in the moments of if I have a character that's like that, which is far and few between, but if I get to have one, then you just feel like real in it. Through acting, I really feel like it's getting into that character and really being able to tell that character story. But when it's an exaggerated moment, then it becomes funnier to the audience. So one of the more recent roles I got to play was this character, Chick Boyle in Crimes of the Heart. And she's like this hoity-toity cousin to these three girls. Like she thinks she knows it all. She's a piece of work, really. And nothing like me, which makes it a little bit more fun to play a character like that. But my first scene, I go into this other character's house, which is her cousin, and I start in the middle of a conversation changing pantyhose, but the pantyhose are too small. So I am over here struggling with the pantyhose, but the more I am struggling, the funnier it is for the audience. So as the character, I'm having to have this real struggle. It's authentic, it's real, this pantyhose struggle. But the audience is finding the comedy in it, watching it happen. And so they're not having the same internal struggle that the character is when they're watching it. So it's almost a dichotomy of two worlds colliding to create that humor that exists on the in between.
Oh, I love that example, and I love that way of you describing that. And like, it is a dichotomy. It is like, we are laughing at you, but we're also laughing at ourselves because it's like what a universal experience of, trying to put on clothing that's a little bit too small. And I'm not sure about the character, but I imagine that if any woman is going to try to ignore the fact that her pantyhose are now too small. And that is really funny because that's relatable. Something I always tell my clowns is that your funniest moment won't come from the funny thing that you think you're about to do, but from that authentic reaction to something that you weren't expecting, because that's more real to people.
Yeah. And we go through that in our everyday lives. And so this just points it out in ways. This is why we love entertainment. We get to see our own foibles in somebody else. They're
Yeah.
doing it. So it is the relatability that we watch in other characters that creates that comedy or creates that connection that we do have to them.
Yeah, and also there's this absurdity to like, the comedy. One of my favorite clowns that has come from one of my classes, he doesn't speak English, but every now and then like an English word will come out. And he had this beautiful like act in one of the classes where he discovers a box and the box is invisible, and the prompt is that you're supposed to have a big reaction, but you don't pull the object out of this invisible box and you don't tell the audience what's inside this invisible box. You just have a reaction. And so he comes out on stage and he's unpacking this box, and it's the funniest thing you've ever seen in your entire life. We don't like, he's just being his clown self. And then slowly, as he's unpacking this box, the words, his English words are going from like, these silly things to son, not a good father. And he starts talking about his addiction. He starts talking about these very personal things. And then he pantomimes packing this box to a very, very small box where he can lift it up. And he looks at the audience, he looks them dead in the eye, and he says, I'm okay, I promise. And this is the only time that he speaks a full sentence in English. Like, he's been mumbling this whole entire time. He's like, having this personal experience in front of everyone. And he looks at them and he goes, I'm okay, I promise. And he says it twice. And I'm sitting next to the stage and I'm in complete shock. I like, you're laughing 1 minute and the next thing you know, it is turning into this reflection of just, balling up your emotions and like, having to feel all this anxiety and all this grief and all this overwhelm and all this insecurity. But you have to tell everyone else, I'm okay, I promise. And so I'm staring at him like this, unpacking what is happening in front of me. And he looks me dead in the eye and he goes, why are you staring at me like that? I'm okay. I promise. And then he walked off the stage.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
poignant. I think I'm okay, I promise. While we don't say those words to other people exactly, I think that we say them to people in other ways all the time.
Yes.
Time with I'm good, I'm fine, or even saying nothing at all. And to learn, I want a world where we can learn how to drop those masks, that inauthenticity, so that we can be who we are in the moments and say, I'm not fucking okay. And
I promise.
yeah,
No, sorry.
right, I promise. But to drop in and say, I'm not okay, because I can speak for myself that in the moments I've had in life where I'm really not feeling okay, I have never had the ability to vocally say to somebody, I'm not okay. If you were to ask me, I'm gonna, no, I'm fine. It's okay. I'm fine. Like, don't worry about me. Right. And the truth is, I'm breaking apart internally. So
Yeah.
I personally want to work on being better at being in that kind of space, but also to hold space for other people so each of us can learn how to step into that and then have that reflection, that space with one another, and to be a safe haven for people.
That's such a wonderful thing. And I like that as something I really appreciate you reflecting back to me because that is something I practice in my life. I am, especially, I feel like this year more than ever, if I'm not okay, I don't lie about it. I will tell people I'm not okay. And I will stand there and I will cry in front of them and I will tell them directly what I am experiencing. And I'll tell them how I am experiencing it. And that is one of the reasons I believe I had that fallout with that friend because it can be so overwhelming. And I think there's a difference between putting your emotions onto people and making it their problem and just expressing yourself. I firmly stand that in my power to express myself and not to make it other people's responsibility. But sometimes people don't know how to separate that from themselves, separate that for themselves. And so when people are too vulnerable and they're too authentic and they're not keeping that mask on in the way that they've been taught and they've been conditioned to keep their mask on and they see it come off, they are unable to meet you where you're at. And they also sometimes feel attacked. And I think it's something I am learning and something that I keep going back to is just having, that, every time my heart breaks, I go, how can I love harder? How can I be more authentic? How can I be more honest, not only to myself, but to others about who I am? So that's why they can be honest to me about who they are.
Oh, man, that's so beautiful. We need more people like you in this world.
I appreciate that because I have not been feeling good lately. I will be completely honest. About 3 weeks ago, I just left the psych ward because this turn like this fallout with my friend was just so impactful in my life. And I was taking so much blame and responsibility for it because there is this deep because I feel so strongly about being authentic and about connection that sometimes I can say the wrong thing and I can be too honest in my processing. And that is what was happening with this person. I was pushing them away instead of bringing them closer. And it will always be a balance between you and other people of what they can handle and what you are able to handle yourself.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to find good friends. And also, because we haven't all learned how to step into this authenticity and beyond that to be able to hold space for somebody else when they're in that authenticity, it can be a really fine line between whether you're actually crossing that fine line or you're not, and to be able to gauge that.
Mm.
And it's hard to find people that can hold space. I think that's even harder. I think you have to really go through a lot of your own processing and healing, because then you recognize where other people are because you used to be there or you have been there. It's You can hold that space and that container for that person because of what we've been through.
Absolutely. That goes back to what I said earlier about when I was 13 or 14, I remember crying in bed and just being like, God, I have to experience all these terrible things so I can be a light for other people. And that to me was the first moment of accepting that clown within me, of recognizing that absurdity of I have to suffer so that's why I can heal. I have to suffer so that's why I can help other people heal. So that's why I can help other people in their life. And it's but I the cosmic giggle has been coming back to me a lot. And that to me was the first time I had that experience with that cosmic giggle. And the cosmic giggle is that moment when you embrace the meaningless of life and you just kind of accept the absurdity of things and is that synchronicity, is that serendipity, and you're finally able to just see just how ridiculous and connected everything is, but also how not connected it is.
Mm. I don't think I've ever contemplated the absurdity of life or the meaninglessness. I always assign my brain does what I feel is probably a natural human thing to do is to assign meaning to everything, which is part of my chronic overthinking is that if there isn't a meaning, I'm searching for it has to be this or it has to be that or maybe this happened because of this or maybe the chronic overthinking part says I'm going to go down every avenue that I possibly can muster in my imagination as to how this situation can could have been, could have not been, should have been, and what does it mean? Is there like a secret hidden meaning? And what if it, in your words, is all meaningless?
Yeah.
I've never even contemplated. What if it's meaningless? What if it's just there to have some absurdity, and we're just here to be okay with that?
Oh, absolutely. Like man, just hearing that, I'm like, oh, yes, queen. Yes. It is here to be absurd and meaningless, and we are here to just experience it.
Mm,
And we are allowed to have whatever emotion that we are having, as long as we are not dwelling in that. And I think that's something like going back to like, that Zen parable about that cup being overfull. Like, when we're so consumed by a certain emotion, and I would even say joy. I have had manic episodes in my life, and it starts with joy, it starts with happiness. And when you're so consumed with keeping that happiness and keeping that joy, you're hurting other people, you're hurting yourself. You don't have room for other things to happen. You don't have room for that cup to be filled.
mm, that's so poignant. Yeah. Wow. I have got this conversation went so much deeper than I possibly expected that it would whatever on clowning. I mean, even clowning itself is a lot deeper than I could have ever imagined that it would be. And with the way that you explain it, I feel like this should be something that people need to have access to on a more global scale, whether they choose to get on the stage or not, just as a way to be able to work through some of their own life shit in a safe space that's giving them the tools to work through that.
Absolutely. One of my favorite clowns I've ever seen has a one-person show on Netflix, and it's called Nate, a one-man show. And she is dressed as a character called Nate. And her show is about consent. And it is the places that she goes and the container that she builds and the complexity of things and the nuance of things and the uneasiness of moments of that show. But to be able to hold that so tightly and so bravely in her palm as a one person show is phenomenal. And we need more people brave enough to be out to go out there and create that experience for people.
Mm. Well, you're one of them. You're already you are in that path of helping to create that experience for people just by teaching the classes where you are. And who knows, maybe you'll be the one teaching it someday on a global scale because of your passion and enthusiasm. I would love to see that.
Oh, me too. Like truthfully, like that is something I am working on. I'm working towards. That is my biggest goal in life is that I really want to bring clown to other people because I think I teach it in such a unique way. And I think my approach is so unique just because my life experiences have been so unique and my background is so unique and I just want to be able to hold that space for people and also help other people give permission to other people to hold that space for other people of like hey like we can do weird shit and we can like be authentic and vulnerable and we can like really go deep if we give ourselves permission to.
Hmm. I so love that. It has been such a pleasure to get to know all of this aspects of you and what you're bringing to the world. And who knows what other platforms you're going to step into as you continue on this journey. And so I do want to ask, as we're coming to the close and our time, what is one bit of wisdom that you would like to leave the audience with?
Uh, um, my favorite thing that has ever been said to me, and it's not really related to clown, I just think it's a good thing to know about life, is that um, honesty without compassion is brutality.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Get behind that. Yeah.
yeah. And also make sure to laugh at your shit because life is absurd, and if you're not enjoying it, then no one else will. No one will enjoy it for you.
That's so true. I love that. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing part of your joy and your spark and your light with us. Maybe in the future there'll be another subject we can delve into, but I really appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This was so much fun, and I love being able to talk about this, and I really appreciate you giving me that opportunity.
Aha. Well, to the audience, as you embrace your humanness, remember to be kind, be you, and remember everything is part of the journey.